literature. We also see Marxism. We also see Marxism from many points of view, and we find Marxist perspectives in many of our literature and many of our writings also. Okay, so we shall see how Marxism collaborates with literature. We shall see that, and how it has got its relevance in our social developments, which is very much related to literature and different literary genres. We are going to see that today. Now, in my earlier classes, I have already introduced, we have already done a bit of Marxist theories. Okay, but still, as it is there in your, in your syllabus quite widely, so we'll be dealing with that today and also half of it tomorrow. So, as I have already explained in my earlier classes, that Marxism has been defined from varied points of view. Okay, so you can say that it is a theory and also it is a philosophy which is very much, very much in action in till our present day society. Okay, so you if you see if I try to give you some example of how Marxism is applicable in our society today, so depending upon the context, in whatever we are talking about, we have to first consider a question which is related to political development. Okay, so in case of political development, Marxism is a kind of approach. Okay, which is very much suitable for the political issues till the present date. And when we say literature, we use Marxism, essentially to give a world outlook. All right. So Marxism is something that tells us about author's mind and nature of his thought. Okay. So many authors, not all, but many authors, if you study a little minutely, you will find that there are certain Marxist thoughts present in their writing, in their perspectives. So Marxism as a theory, if you would see, you will be able to explain Marxism as a critical method, okay, with whose help you can raise important questions about the practice of certain author when we are going through in our coming lines, when we are talking about ideology, when we are talking about examining Marxist perspectives in different writers, then you will be able to observe some Marxist, the presence of Marxist theories in some authors that we'll be talking about. Okay, and you will see through those examples, you will find how this kind of theory is really rational and acceptable. Okay, and many theorists, they define Marxism as the study of life and behavior under social sciences. Okay, study of life and behavior under social sciences. So this idea of the concept of action, actually concept of action, it separates Marxism from all earlier philosophies. Okay, now they say that while the uh, there are so many angles to Marxism that has yet to be seen, that has yet to be defined. Okay, now exactly if we are talking about Marxism, I'll tell you exactly it is what and how you are going to look at Marxism in literature. Now, if you see Marxism, then Marxist theory actually talks about different phenomena in the environment. Okay, as a part of the larger social reality. It is a phenomena in the environment as a part of the larger social reality. So it is just a part of the environment in a social scenario. Okay, so to explain you in a in a clarified way, we see that we all live in a society. Okay, whatever we think, whatever we feel, whatever we believe in, it is necessary a part of our society, isn't it? We think and feel according to society, irrespective of our religious background. Okay, whatever we are, whatever we think, okay, whatever our assumptions are, it is according to our society. Okay, and therefore it reflects the social realities around us. So what are we? We are the reflections of the social surrounding around us. And how is our social surrounding made? Our social surrounding is organized under certain specific system of production and distribution. See, now economics comes in. Our society, okay, has been specified under the production and distribution system, under the system of production and distribution. Okay, what are the things it produces? Okay, what is the economical production and how it is distributed? So our society mainly comprises of that. All right. So in terms of production and distribution, our society gives us immense amount of pressure on each and every member living in the society. So according to Marxism, individuals or groups in a society, they are molded as they are by the forces of production and distribution. So whatever we are according to society. And what is society? Society mainly, its special feature is related to the methods of production and distribution. Okay. And
Ma'am, production of what and distribution of what?
production of goods. Okay. Production and distribution of goods. So that's why I said that now this is a bit of economics. Okay. Production and distribution of goods. All right. Suppose, for example, Habiba, if we are living in a rural society, okay, there's lot of suppose I live in a village where there is a lot of production of wheat. All right. Now, my society, most of my neighbors are farmers. Now, this society, when I see all the people are going around to the fields and they are working, so I also get the pressure of doing the same. Okay. So, according to Marxism, these individuals are all groups in a society. We are shaped, we are formed by the forces of production and distribution. So, if I'm a farmer, that means that my society comprises of farmers, and the land which is in our village is mostly farming land. Okay, producing land. So I have got a lot of pressure with regard to the production of wheat and with regard to the distribution of wheat. Okay, so we are also remember this, that we are also very much bonded with our environment. Okay, so this environment means the farmlands are also part of our society. Can you understand, or should I explain this to you again?
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, it suffices to my question.
Okay, are you able to understand what I'm
Yes,
saying?
ma'am. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
So here you can see things are blended actually. This in Marxist theory, you can see a lot of economics because it is talking about production and distribution of
Ma'am, I
goods.
was thinking, isn't it like too factual to be a theory? Like something that is too much of a fact that doesn't count to be a theory. So
Okay.
basically,
A theory and that too in literature. Am I right? Because last past classes we were talking about all those different theoretical things in literature, right? And that is why you doubted that is it this or something else. Am I right, Abhiba?
yes, ma'am. Actually, ma'am, I'm finding it like too factual to be a theory.
I
So theory
understand.
is something which we don't know. So I mean, as we are just progressing with this theory, I'm finding it like too factual and like too
I know.
apparent to be seen in society.
I know. That is why I think if you have studied, I don't know if you have studied or not. If you have studied economics or what should I say, or philosophy, or if you have studied education also, no, you get a lot of Marxist theories. I don't know if you have come up with these subjects or not. That is why maybe you might be finding this theory new and little bit different from other critical theories that we were doing in our previous classes. Anyway, but this I must say that slowly, we are going into those theories which are very factual. Okay, like in our coming classes, in my next class, when we'll be starting with another block, there are feminist theories. So they are also very factual theories, all right, which exist really in the society, and that is why you said that it is very factual, because this is there in the society and it happens in the society. And in our previous classes we were moving around those theories, and we were just discussing that whatever happens in the society is reflected, it is mimicked, and it is produced by the authors. So what are those social theories that we are doing dealing with now, as we are coming slowly as we are coming to the end of our classes? Now, Marxist theory, as I was telling you, it talks about how we as individuals behave in accordance with society, okay, which is very much prone to the production and distribution of their own goods. Okay. Now, see, each society produces something. Suppose, for example, I live in an education belt. Okay. Now, I live in Cuttack, Orissa. So the place Cuttack, the locality where I am, if you come here, you will see there are multiple colleges, there are multiple universities, and there are some very good schools also. So I live in an educational belt. Now, if you apply Marxist theory, what you see, you see that I have got some, some, what should I say, some stress in within myself because of my society, because it is completely an educational belt. Okay, too many colleges and universities are there. So what are these colleges and universities? If you take it from the economical point of view, they are also a source of production and distribution. We create human resources here, if you take it that way, from economical point of view. So that is my society. So if I'm living here in an education belt, I see mostly my neighbors are teachers or university professors or college lecturers. So this is what my society comprises of. Can you connect, learners? Can you connect it with the Marxist theories? I'll then move on further. So my environment, try to understand, is the schools and colleges surrounding me. Okay, then my neighborhood also, if I talk about the domestic space of my surrounding, okay, so they are also professionally teachers or professors or lecturers. All right. So we are the products of the forces of production and distribution, which is the production of human resources. And we spread the students out annually to go to different work fields. Okay, so these this is my environment. Okay. So what I see, these classes of people, okay, they remain in constant clash with one another. All right. They strive with each other to establish their own supremacy. Okay. In this structure that we operate now, we clash doesn't mean that we take swords and weapons and we fight. No, we compete with each other. If I see that, there is another, please let me know, learners, if I'm able to make this clear with you or not. You can unmute yourself and tell me. See, if mine is an educational belt, okay, and I want, I have my kid, I want my kid to compete and get into some good university. Okay, there is my neighbor. He or she wishes to do the same. So what we are doing, we are having competitions. We are clashing with our intellectuality in order to go beyond others in the race of our economical clash. So this Marxism, this theory, it tells us that class struggle is the essence of society. Okay. Now, class struggle, I don't mean riots and fightings and throwing, pelting stones upon each other. Not that. Means we have a healthy competition. So there's a class struggle. That is the essence of a society. Okay. And Marxism says nothing happening in society can be adequately explained with reference to this fact. Okay, whatever is happening in the society, okay, has the undercurrent of this fact. Which fact? That class struggle is the essence of a society. Am I clear, dear learners? Please speak up if there is any problem. If I'm clear, then just let me know. Tell yes or no or something. Okay. You're able to understand. That's very good.
Ma'am, I just want to ask you, is it possible for you to give us an example with the help of a book or something that we can understand it better? It's slightly confusing and it might just slip off the mind after the class. So, one
Now, what I
example.
told, could you understand? I gave an example of my own self.
Yes, that
Did you
also
understand
maybe
that,
with the
Preeti?
help of some book that where we can apply the
I'll tell
Marxist
you, I'm going to
criticism.
that. I'm going to that point.
Yes, ma'am.
And you have most likely in your material also. But whatever I told you, were you able to understand?
Yes, ma'am. To some extent, yes. Just want more clarity
Now,
on that.
Preeti,
So,
I'm telling you. Now, Preeti, you tell me, where do you live?
Mumbai, ma'am.
Mumbai. So Mumbai, if I say, now I'm not particularizing, but if you see Mumbai, then there are many youths who are aspiring to go into Bollywood, maybe as actors, actresses, um, as directors.
True, ma'am.
Okay,
Right. Yes.
okay. I'm giving one example. Okay,
Yes,
because
ma'am.
Mumbai is full of beautiful people. So now what there also you can apply Marxism in your area, and that is very deeply. So your environment is what? Your environment is very if I say in a positive sense, it is a kind of a filmy environment. Means many people, many youth there, they are aspiring to go into Bollywood. For that, they are studying. They are, they are getting the degree of acting and media communication of directing. There might be too many art schools also, so that they are learning art, okay, or acting. All right. So see, find the difference between your place and my place. Your environment is very much into the acting and those filming thing. Your environment. My environment, where I studied, where I live, is full of educational institutes. So in my area, our people, our kids are aspiring to become university professors, college lecturers, school teachers. One example only. Okay, Preeti. Whereas in your area,
Yes, ma'am.
okay, what these youth are doing, they are not passionate about to go to Bollywood. They want to earn in crores. So for that, from childhood, they are making up their mind how to go into that line, into that industry. So for you, that is your social environment. Okay, and what are they doing? They are having a clash. Okay, they are having a competition. Okay, who can enter? So there are many thousands who are aspiring. Okay, so this clash is, according to Marxist theory, is a healthy clash, because no society can rise if they do not have this kind of competition to go ahead. Understood?
Yes, ma'am. Clearly.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. Now, Preeti, if you read this book I was reading, it is quite thick and it is taking lots and lots of time. I cannot find so much of time. But there is a book, Leo Tolstoy's Anna Karenina. Okay, you can make a note of that, Priti, if you want to have more elaborate idea through story, through example, or through a
Yes, ma'am.
novel, as we are students of literature. So if you just note down Leo Tolstoy's Anna Karenina, it talks about a beautiful woman called Anna Karenina who falls into adultery. Adultery means she falls in love after marriage and after bearing children. Okay, she falls in love with another man. This is the basic plot of the story. Now, how that society behaves, there you will find lots and lots of Marxist theories, because Leo Tolstoy belongs to Russia, and Russia is basically a communist country. Okay, and there you can apply a lot of Marxist theories, because there's certain section of society which engages itself in a aristocratic lifestyle, lavish living. Okay, whereas there another section of society who strictly believes in communism, who wants to, remain at the base level in villages, do farming work. Okay, but and they try to maintain a simple lifestyle. So the village where you see has got a setup which is competing in agricultural backdrop, whereas at the same time you find Tolstoy talking about city life. Okay, in Russia, and how those people are maintaining the aristocracy, how bureaucracy works there, and how they are competing within bureaucrats. That is represented beautifully in Anna Karenina. Just go through that, Preeti, you will understand.
Sure,
Am I
ma'am.
correct?
Thank you so much. Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, I'm still not able to figure out the nature of this theory because ma'am, theory, like till now, whatever we have read in our canon, it has to be either good or bad, or progressive or derogatory. So,
Yes.
ma'am, something that is like very apparent or very banal and very cliche, or something which we can see through our naked eyes, like
Hmm.
how can we like label it as either good or bad, or I mean,
This is
how should I
going
perceive
on.
this theory as? Because it is something very apparent in the society. It is something very factual, as I mentioned earlier as well. So I'm still not
Hmm.
able to figure out the
This is
nature of this
going
theory. Like,
on.
should
This
we
is going
label
on
it
in
as
your head.
progressive?
This is going on and on in your head since the starting of our class.
Yes,
Maybe
ma'am.
maybe this Marxism is a little bit not impractical for you.
Ma'am, because this is something which nobody has told us, and we have seen it, from the very beginning itself. Like everybody in the
Yeah,
society
yeah,
is
yeah, yeah.
struggling with class and trying
Ye-
to climb up the ladder. So, like
Yes,
this is something which is there. So, like, how should we like put it as, or categorize it as, or compartmentalize it as?
yes, yes. When you're talking about this kind of class struggle, okay. So, Karl Marx actually brought this kind of, what do you say, critical approach to the society. Okay, it is Karl Marx who started with this, and Habiba, this is there. Okay, we all know that this kind of class struggle is there, but Marx actually and his followers, disciples, they try to chart out the theory. Okay, and also at the same time, as we move ahead, I think you'll get more and more clarified, because the darker side of this Marxism is also mentioned. Okay, this class struggle is there. Okay, this
Ma'am,
clientism.
because yes, ma'am. Ma'am, sorry to interrupt in between. Ma'am, I was just going through the IGNOU material, and I couldn't figure out, I could not decode anything from that material, because it was like too bewildered, the form itself, the pattern, it was like so bewildering to me. So, ma'am, I thought of discussing it and like putting it forth. So, ma'am, could you please provide us with some Marxist material if you could, ma'am? That would be a
There are
very,
many.
it would be very beneficial for us and a favor from your end to us.
There are many. Okay, I have some critical theory books. I'll try to find out and I'll try to give you. And I see that you're always intrigued to read beyond these materials. That's
Yes,
very good
ma'am.
of you.
Yes, ma'am.
That's very good of you. But if you, Habiba, just Google novels based on Marxist perspectives, you will find
Hmm.
many novels. And instead of, Habiba, I would suggest going through these critical and theoretical works. If you read those novels, you that will be more clearly and in a refined way. It will come to you. Okay.
Hmm. Okay,
And
ma'am.
another thing is that to a larger extent, this Marxist theory is not working. Okay, he's saying that this kind of clash is there in society, and that only helps a society to go ahead in terms of capitalistic gains. But
Hmm.
is this clash always good? So there are lots of fissures and lapses in these theories. Anyway, we should not go to those areas. What is given, we are dealing with that. Now, where I was. Hmm. So, if we apply all these methods, Marxist methods, uh, we'll be able to comprehend the fullness of the idea. And we can find that this whole society is interconnected, is a web. Okay, it is a kind of web, the society. Okay, and it is deeply interconnected in terms of production and distribution of our products or goods or whatever you call. Okay, so when you do this, when you apply this Marxist method in order to inquire, in order to analyze a certain society or certain aspect of the theory, then it is called the dialectical method. Okay, dialectical, Dialectical, dialectical method. Okay, and here you will see that whatever opposing elements are there, in this dialectical method you will see things are connected to each other. Okay, so actually it means that when there are two elements clashing, then these two elements should be studied according to Marxist theory. Please see, understand, when in Marxist theory says, then when two elements are clashing, it says that there is a clash in society. Okay, in order to uh, take supremacy in one's hand, the supremacy of what, of production and distribution. So in the or in other words you can say, uh, in the, what should I say, in raising oneself in the economical status, there is a clash. Why you are clashing? Because you want to take the supremacy and you want to rise. So in this clash of rising in the economical status, according to Marxist theory, this clash should be studied, and this clash should be judged also with reference to the structure of the society and what is creating this kind of clash, that you should study. That is what is Marxist criticism. Okay, when you study this clash, that why it is happening, okay, you have to give proper judgment, look at this clash from multiple perspectives and give your observation. All right. So this clash, according to Marxist theories, is positive. Okay, it says no, it is not negative. When you are struggling to rise, it is positive, and it is a productive clash. Okay, where struggle for resolving the conflict may also be noticed. This conflict and why there is a struggle, that also be noticed. But however, this kind of clash is productive clash when you are trying to uh, take the uh, command, and when you want to go high in the economical status, then this kind of clash and this kind of struggle is good within the society, as it will give you more capitalistic gains to the society. Okay.
Ma'am, are we allowed to write subjective examples under Marxist theory? Ma'am, as in if we were to write about the Naxalists movement and like something about it, so will that be politically correct if we are going to write about it? Because I don't know about uh, the mindset of the lecturers, like how do they perceive the answers as. So I was just like being permissible about it.
I would suggest you not to go into those lines. Do
Okay,
not
okay,
be
okay.
political. Okay. Because our political perceptions changes from person to person. It is all right when you stick to the theory. That's all.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, ma'am.
Okay, and always remember, do not forget that Marxism is exactly what you can say is, it is a way, it is a method of looking at some social developments. Okay, don't get so much confused. Keep it simple, that Marxism is actually a way, it is a way, it is a method of looking at social development. Okay, so
Sure, ma'am.
Marxist theory actually, it forces that society or the social organization of a particular time has to be viewed as part of a whole series. Okay, the whole series of changes that is taking place in history. Okay, the societal changes has to be observed, and you have to understand that the whole societal changes which is happening, it is a series that is taking place. As I told you, it is a web. Okay, and this is a series you have to remember, that has taken place in history. Now I think by now you understand what is society.
Yes,
Society
ma'am.
Okay, so do not say that society means my neighborhood and everything near me is society. But what is that everything? Or everything actually means in your society, what is the basic method of production and distribution, and what is the environment that comprises of society. So when you are reading Marxism, society means that. It doesn't mean that only your neighbors, okay, your quarreling neighbors or your ill-mannered neighbors or your uncivilized neighbors. No, not that. Okay, are good neighbors, hospitable. No, we are not talking about morality here. There's no ethical thing here. We are talking about economical society. Okay, what is a society based on? What is the usual profession? The maximum, what do you say? Majority profession is what? So that is what is a society. All right. So this theory actually talks about that society. Okay, okay, of particular time. If you view now, what is this theory? Your society. Okay, you can take your society also. You can make a research taking from the Marxist point of view. Your society, okay, how it is to be viewed with the connection of the whole series in consideration with the past. Okay, so you have to take the whole past and present of your society. That is what Marxist theories insist upon.
Ma'am, can I interrupt?
Yes, tell me.
You asked me to look up, and you were asking us to look up some novels. So I came across two or three things. I came across Cinderella. I came across this, just a thought flickered past my mind. Can we associate Great Expectations with Marxist theory?
Exactly,
Because
exactly. Peter, you got it. Yes, you're
Pip
very
and how his
appropriate.
expectations and his
Yes,
subconscious feeling of the
yes,
society, how he feels low and everything.
excellent. Yes,
Ma'am,
exactly. You
like
got
for
it.
that matter, Pride and Prejudice would also fall under this category of
Yes, yes,
Marxist view of literature.
absolutely. Now you got it. Now two of you got it. Very good. Yes.
Thank you, ma'am.
Now, where I was. Okay. Now we uh, we are shifting now our attention to the fact that the process of this economic production and distribution is a vital constituent of organized human life. You can make a note of this, okay? That the process of economic production and distribution is a vital constituent of organized human life. So he is, Marxist theory is very much optimistic about this whole economic process. So he says that human life gets organized only because of the economic production and distribution thing, isn't it? Now, whatever we have said, we have discussed a lot with this. We have talked of the, that what determines the aspect of society. We have been discussing this. Now, um, you can see that sooner or later our society is transforming through the way people are acting and through the way people are thinking. So our people's action and thought, that actually transforms the society in terms of production and distribution. I need not say this again and again. Production, distribution, you have to keep that in mind. Okay, so, in order to point out the relationship between social changes and human life, we will take few examples which happened in Europe and which we have just now discussed. You two people have pointed out same thing. That was the French Revolution that had taken place towards the end of 18th century, and the industrial revolution in England that had taken place in the second and third decades of the 19th century. Okay, so these two revolutions, French Revolution and Industrial Revolution, they left a very lasting impact on the society of France, that happened in French Revolution, and England Industrial Revolution. Okay, so French Revolution made a doctrine. Okay, it passed a law of equality among human beings. All right, now see, where is Marxism here? This doctrine talks of equality among human beings, that should be acceptable to all. So this equality should pertain in a society. And this is something for the cause of which people would stake their lives. For equality, okay, people should have to stake their lives. All right. So this notion of equality among people was very new and inspiring in those days. Before that, before this French Revolution, nobody thought about equality. They had no idea. But now, Revolution started about talking talking about equality, which was very new and inspiring for many people. Okay, so this kind of doctrine violated the prevailing norms of hierarchy. There was a lot of hierarchy, you must be knowing if you have read, as you were saying, Great Expectation, Pride and Prejudice. Also, there was a lot of hierarchy. You understanding hierarchy? Hierarchy means the kind of social ladder which you have to climb. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. The social pyramid.
Yes, social pyramid, exactly. The people are, are very good readers, most likely. So you can connect things very easily. Now that is a social pyramid, or I can say it is a social ladder that you have to climb in terms of class. Okay. So if you talk about equality, then we see that hierarchy which was prevailing in that society, that was obliterated. That was no more in in practice, because you have to live equally. So in common knowledge, this rise or this revolution in France, okay, made the masses against the feudal tortures. Feudal, feudal system. Do you know that feeling of high class and low class? And that how landlords were treating the farmers, isn't it? So this gave a big bash to the feudal system, and it gave a lot of forces to the progress, okay, in a very big way. And this established a regime of free enterprise and democracy. So this French Revolution brought fresh air of democracy and equality and free enterprise. These people from the aristocracy, they were not letting low class rise. They kept them suppressed. Okay, in some way or the other, they did not allow the working class to rise. They paid them very low. They worked in the industries and factories. They did a lot of hard work, but they were given meager amount. Whereas those landowners or industry owners, they enjoyed wealth, and they were not allowing this lower class to climb the ladder. So there was inequality, very worse kind of inequality. So when this kind of French Revolution came, it brought the doctrine of equality. And now there was free enterprise. If you want like Great Expectation, you will see you can climb up the ladder if you work hard. Okay, then you also can come to the status of high class. So that was the blessing given by French Revolution. So after this time, the oppressed, the common people of France, they now started moving upwards, because these low class people were already hardworking people. Whereas high class people, they just enjoyed, they just lavishly blew away their wealth, okay, in the enjoyment and luxuries. Whereas these working class people now, as they were struggling class people, now when they got opportunity, they now started rising in the level, in the, what do you say, in the ladder of economy. Okay, now they gradually took the center stage. So literature did not remain untouched by this development. As you two people have rightly pointed out, literature got affected through these novels that you told me. Okay, so the energy and passion that we saw in this French Revolution, same kind of passion and energy you will find in many French fiction writing of the 19th century. And that you can easily link up with the social rise in France in the last decade of the 18th century. Okay, so if you read these French novels of those periods, you will find who is the central figure. Okay, you will find one ordinary villager, okay, takes the center stage. And you can compare If you read those novelists, they give you full scope to to assess for yourself who actually is the center figure, an ordinary villager or a city dweller. You will be able to assess if a middle class individual, a small trader, a clerk, a poet, who takes the center figure. Now you will see. So no more high class priorities, whereas everybody were given equal priorities now. So the basic concern of the writer in France, it became the behavior of the common people. Okay. And the vast changes that had swept the nation. So now we should mark the language of this novel. Okay, so the ordinary French used at the marketplace. So this French Revolution brought a change in the language also in the fiction writing. Okay, instead of using that high courtly or aristocratic language, now the market people speaking language, casual language was used now. So now this language became a vehicle of expression of day-to-day experiences, which was vibrant with common idioms, with common thoughts, with common proverbs, with common phrases also. Okay, so one such example that you saw was romanticism. Okay, so romanticism is also one of the products of French Revolution. But if you see, it doesn't mean that all writers started using that. No, those writers who were influenced by this idea of French Revolution, they got themselves changed. Okay, whereas some of them, they still remain very conservative in their approaches. Okay, so not all, but there were many who went with the side with French Revolution, many who remained conservative. Okay, now when we are talking about industrial revolution, uh, industrial revolution, we can say that it did not appear as spectacular as French Revolution. French Revolution was spectacular. Okay, there was a mass movement. Okay, because people were already very much suffocated by that class hierarchies, and that was a mass sweep in the society. Okay, whereas industrial revolution was little different. Okay. If you read the history of industrial revolution, you will find that there were no heroes or villains, whereas in French Revolution, working class people were heroes and aristocracy were villains. But in industrial revolution, there were no heroes or villains. Okay. There was no uh, people forcing for some political changes. It did not have all that kind of thing. It is called revolution, actually, industrial revolution, in the sense that it changed the society landscape of England. Okay, because it shifted the movement of life in the direction of industrialization. So here, revolution doesn't mean people struggling and fighting and shedding their blood. Not that. Here, revolution means change. Okay, because if you read novels before this industrial revolution came, you will see that novels or poems are also dedicated to pastoral lands. pastoral मतलब जो बकरी चराने वाला, शीप चराने वाला लैंड होता था मेनली, एंड रूरल इंग्लैंड, बहुत ज्यादा विलेज टाइप था इंग्लैंड. बट विद द एडवेंट ऑफ इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन, यू सी द लैंडस्केप चेंजिंग. ओके, लैंडस्केप जो था वो पास्टोरल से एग्रीकल्चरल से क्या हो गया, इंडस्ट्री बनने लगा बड़ा बड़ा. सो इट नो मोर रिमेन रूरल, इट बिकेम अर्बनाइज्ड. दैट इज व्हाट इज रेवोल्यूशन. If you talk about industrial revolution, it doesn't mean fight or tension or clash, nothing of that sort. Okay, so the rural production which was happening, it depended on age-old use of land. Okay, that was dominant mode of existence were used, and only mainly pastoral land and agricultural land was there. It got changed to industrial England. So if you keep this thing in your mind, then the novels of, as you told me, Charles Dickens, George Eliot also, it captured England that has entirely new set of questions in front of it. Now, this Dickens novels and George Eliot's novel, actually, it questioned poverty. It questioned in inequality. Okay, Dickens novels, as you rightly pointed out, and you will see how Dickens also is connecting poverty and equality, how he is linking poverty and equality with the expansion of industry. That was so strongly represented there that the reader cannot link the representation with anything written before. डिकेंस ने जो movement लाया through his novels, nobody had done that before. How he was able to connect, how he was able to link, okay, the expansion of the industry and the pertaining inequality and poverty, the way he has explored, nobody has done that. He started with that. Okay, so the novels of Dickens are clearly rooted in the reality of mid 19th century England. Mid 19th century England का clear representation is given by Dickens. And in the same way, if you come across the protagonists, the heroes of George Eliot's novel, okay, you can closely identify who is the hero, who is the protagonist. Protagonist is a middle class individual with a new kind of sensitivity and inner life. उसका एक inner self है. Okay, that you can explore that inner self in the novels of George Eliot, and you can connect it with how and what industrial revolution meant to the people, to the common people of that time. Okay, so you cannot deny the fact that the development of industrial production in England inspired this powerful fictional writing. इंडस्ट्रियल ट्रेंड जो स्टार्ट हुआ, दैट ओनली बिकेम okay the major source of inspiration for such powerful knowledge novels. If industrial revolution wouldn't have happened, then such great novels wouldn't have been written. Okay, so we do see in these fictions some simple reflection of society. Okay, and the treatment of issues from many different points of view you will find in a society that is caught in the process of change. Okay, and in those novels, if you read, you will also notice that under the impact of industrial revolution, most of the writers of that time, they became very sympathetic towards the common people. Okay, because they saw, na, they were the eyewitnesses of whatever was happening, so they had lots of sympathy for the common masses, and they picked up characters from among them only in order to project some deep human urges and interests. And whereas the characters that they took from the upper classes, they usually represented the 19th century fiction, uh, that looked very lifeless in comparison. Upper class looked very lifeless in comparison to the middle class. So the point that I want to put in here is that it if you look at from the angle of important historical development, then literary works, they put forward an altogether new idea, they bring a new idea, fresh thoughts. Okay, and from, if you take the Marxist point of view, then these literary works, they are not myths, they are not fables. Okay, they are actually a retelling. Please remember this. Please mark my words. If you take these novels from Marxist point of view, then these literary works, two examples are there, Dickens and George Eliot. Okay, the fiction writings of these two great authors, they are not the works of myths, they are not fables, fake stories nahi hai. They are actually retelling. Okay, they're retelling the characters which are caught in a plot structure, but also they are the representation of important trends. Okay, so in this sense, fiction and poetry both, they become areas in which the processes of change, okay, in life is represented before you in a very crystallized manner. Okay, in a very clear manner, those lives are brought before you. And if you read these novels, you can, in your mind's eye, in your imagination, you can picturize the whole thing very clearly. After you got this idea about French Revolution, Industrial Revolution, how class stratification occurred, and then how they clashed, and how middle class and low class, they raised themselves. That clarity of vision will now come to you if you read these novels. So if you find time, do go back and read these novels. At least one or two that you pointed out, you can read. Others can also read and understand how Marxism is applicable in the literary works. Now moving on. Now, since I explained to you a lot that Marxism lays a lot of stress upon the importance of history within which various social and cultural trends are emerging, it gives a new dimension to the study of literature. Okay, there are many pieces of literature where this Marxist theory is very much applicable. Okay, so it is with the help of Marxism only that we can understand, we can comprehend the relationship between a writer and his or her society. Okay, so this ये जो कनेक्शन आया ना ऑथर का विद द सोसाइटी एंड डीपर अंडरस्टैंडिंग ऑफ द सोसाइटी दैट वी आर गेटिंग नाउ इन आवर फिक्शन राइटिंग, दैट इज मेनली through the help of Marxist theories. Okay, so this relationship that we have developed is is related to a very sensitive individual with his or her environment. Okay, ये sensitive individual कौन है? They are the authors. Okay, so you can find a deep relationship between a sensitive individual, okay, with his or her environment. Author का individuality you can connect with his or her environment of the time. Okay, so this individual is actually individual or author is actually deeply concerned with the condition of people of the time. Okay, these authors were really moved by whatever was happening. Okay, so these authors, they recognized the existence of not merely pain and anguish, but also, they understood that there is anger, there is also a sense of resistance in the lives of the common people surrounding him or her. And also at the same time, the writer notices among people the great urge to enjoy, celebrate and be happy. उनका भी तो right है ना, enjoy करने का, celebrate करने का, happy रहने का, for which they had to struggle. So the author deeply understood this. So this idea, this sensitivity towards lower class, it makes the author combine within his writing the different human emotions of sadness, okay, of the disquietness within him, of the anger within him, and the wish to be happy within him was realized and recognized by the author. Okay, so basically these ideas, they appear to be expressions of one individual's response. Okay, these are the expressions of each individual's response that you will read in the novel. Novel, when you are reading, you will find that they are the expressions of individual responses of the people of that time. So the writer's response that you see has its roots from the society. वो society को लाके रखा है तुम्हारे सामने. Okay, to which he or she belongs. And therefore, he or she, the writer, reflects upon the nature of his or her surrounding. Okay. So Marxism does not stop here at this point, but it takes into serious consideration some further specific mode of production. Then Marxism looks into the governing economic structure. Marxism looks into how the activity of men and women are regulated in a certain way. Marxism also pinpoint the role of human beings in shaping the society through sharp questioning and active mobilization. All these you will find in the novel. How there are certain human beings, they are reforming the society by questioning the the then administration. Okay, they are questioning, they're making people aware, okay, of certain bleakness that is pertaining in the society, that human beings wants to bring out everyone, not only himself but everyone in his society, to come out from that bleakness and stay in a very civilized society. Excuse me. Okay, so these Marxist theories you will find very much relatable to literature, and they have certain functions also. This literature have got certain functions. Okay, they are not, they're just not only the social background, and they're not trying to just show you that this kind of conclusion should happen. Okay, because of certain environment, and they just do not say that the individual will operate. Okay, the hero, whatever happens, hero will operate. Hero will let out the society from all sorts of discrimination and feudalism. Not that. Okay, literature actually, you have to see, number one, as an exact reflection, as an exact image of its times. Because according to the theory, uh, according to this theory, the society could be anything better or different. Okay, means वो टाइम में वैसा वैसा था, तो मे बी that is relatable now also. Maybe certain things are happening now also, same things, so that might be relatable. So the characters, voices, okay, attitudes of the characters in that literary work, they are interpreted as the full and final picture of the society that produced it, with no scope of alternative set of representation in it. So in the second case, the individuals will becomes free, okay, from all social constraints, and the criticism using this concept sees the work as operating on a much higher universal plane. Okay, जो criticism है, it is working in the higher plane. For example, this kind of criticism that is made out of some literary work on Marxism, it can separate the reference to myths in a particular work from other things present in it, and it can relate it with some manner to other myths. Okay, means certain thing is there in the present, you can connect it with certain things happening in the similar manner in the past. Okay, so this modernist criticism has this kind of tendency. Okay, modernist criticism can connect the present with the past. Certain thing is happening at certain time, okay, or in the present time. This kind of incident might have happened sometime in the past. So this connectivity is usually done by the modernist critics. Okay. So you can see what is significant here is that literature, you can see here, is a very powerful cultural tool. Okay, it is a powerful cultural tool, and it is very seriously underrated. Okay, nobody is going to a novel to find solutions to certain social issues or societal issues. Okay, it is completely neglected. Only we people of literature are reading novels, whereas it should be read by everyone. Okay, to an economist, by a psychologist, okay, by a physicist, everyone should go and refer to these novels in order to find some facts. Okay, which is very relatable to the present condition, to their economical or professional status. Okay. Where I was, yes. So it is a very powerful cultural tool, which is very seriously neglected. So we, by restoring literature, it is the responsibility of the society to restore literature, its ability to critique, because literature gives a very intellectual critique to the society. Okay, and adding a pinch of creative interest, it can be brought to the larger masses. Okay, so this idea of Marxism, it actually places this most fulfilling and meaningful human tendency with the parameters of society and history. So here, this theory of Marxism uh, becomes an important tool here in carrying forth, in making people find relevance of certain societal happenings taking place. Okay, with the help of novels and literary works, which people should go back and refer to according to Marxist theories. Now, learners, I did not mark the time. I have taken few minutes of your next teacher. So I'll stop here. We'll meet, I think, most probably on Monday. Tomorrow is Saturday. And we'll continue with this Marxist theory little bit more. Okay. And then next class, we'll go over to your feminist theories. Okay. So goodbye for today. We'll meet
Thank you,
next.
ma'am.
Thank you.
Good evening. This is MEG 8 class. So those who have MEG 8 can remain in this class. Lakshmi, Lakshmi, can you hear me? Hello, Lakshmi. Juliet, hello. Okay. So, as yesterday we were discussing that. Yeah. So yesterday we were discussing about this ice candy man. So I was talking about the themes and motives and some of the themes and motives as I said. One is partition. So you find partisan, the novel, depicts the political and the social turmoil. Um, you see that resulted from the division of India into two parts nations based on religious lines. And the novel, shows how partition affected the lives of millions of people who were displaced, killed, or traumatized by the violence and the hatred that erupted, between Hindus and Muslims and Sikhs. Okay. Am I clear? Hello, am I audible? Okay, okay. So, talking about the religious identity, we find the novel explores how religious affiliation becomes, marker of difference and a source of conflict among people who used, to coexist peacefully. And you find the novel also shows how some people, change their religious identity to survive or to escape, persecution, such as, Hari, who converts from Hinduism to Islam. Then we also see child and innocence. Child and innocence. You find that the novel portrays, the loss of child and innocence that you find that Lenny and other children experience due to partition. So Lenny witnesses the horror of war, betrayal and rape that shatters her idyllic view of the world. So she also grows up faster than normal, and as she learns about sexuality, violence, and death, and you see women and violence, we can this novel exposes the vulnerability and the oppression of women in the patriarchal society, that is torn by communal strife. And The novel focuses on the plight of Aya, who is, kidnapped, raped, and forced into, you know, forced into prostitution by Ice Candy Man. So the novel also reveals that resilience and courage of women who, resist or escape their abusers, such as Godmother, who help, Lenny escape Aya. So cracking India is, the novel uses the image of cracking India as a symbol of fragmentation and destruction that partition caused. So the novel also, suggests that India was already cracked by its colonial history, its social inequalities. So all these, things. Am I clear? Hello, am I audible? Am I clear? I want a response. Okay, okay, Suman. Okay, fine. Then we have the symbolism and the imagery. We find the religious markers, emblems. The novel uses various symbols that identify a person's religious affiliation, such as names, clothing, hairstyle, and circumcision. And these symbols, were very prominent. You find it is very prominent, and uh, and divisive as partition, approaches and religious differences leads to violence and hatred. So you see, the novel uses, as I have already said about, cracking India. So this symbol is of fragmentation and destruction. So you find it talks about its religious division, and you see the birds, birds as a symbol, because the novel uses birds as a symbol of freedom and captivity. And Ice Candy Man often, frees caged birds as a gesture of kindness. Okay. So it is a, kind of kindness that you find in him, and later you find that you find however, he also cages, Aya in his house, and deprives her of her freedom. Okay. So all these things we find are reflected in the in this novel. You find, birds also symbolize the flight of refugees who leave their home and cross the border during partition. So, and then we find polio as one of the, um, symbols that the novel uses polio as a symbol of Lenny's disability and difference. And you find Lenny suffers, from polio, which affects her leg and makes her limp. So she undergoes many surgeries and treatments to cure her condition. But polio also, symbolizes Lenny's isolation, alienation from other children and from normal life. So she spends, most of her time with adults and witnesses the horrors of partition. Okay, am I clear? Are you Juliet? Juliet, are you getting me? Hello, Juliet. Yeah, so I was talking about the social and the historic commentary, and the novel Ice Candy Man, provides the social and the historical commentary on the partition of India in 1947, which divided the country into two nations based on religious lines, that is, the India and Pakistan. So the novel depicts, the impact of partition on the lives of ordinary people, especially we can say women who suffered from violence, displacement, oppression, and some of the aspects of the novels, social and historical commentary, are the Parsi perspective. The Parsi perspective, if we are talking about, is the novel offers, a unique perspective on partition from the point of view of a Parsi girl, um, Lenny, who belongs to a minority religious community that practiced, Zoroastrianism, and you find the Parsis were neutral and loyal to British rule. So they tried, to avoid taking sides in the communal conflict. And the novel, shows how the Parsis faced discrimination and insecurity in the newly formed Pakistan, where they were, seen as outsiders and, inflightings. You find the feminist critic, you find the novel exposes the patriarchal and the misogynist of nature of the society, that oppressed and violated the women during partition. And the novel also focuses on the character of Aya, who is a Hindu nanny and symbols of, beauty and harmony. And she is, kidnapped, raped, and forced into prostitution by the Ice Candy Man. And this Ice Candy Man is a Muslim person. So you see, is a popsicle, seller and a symbol of betrayal and cruelty you find in him. And the novel also, portrays the resilience and agency of women who resists or escapes their abusers, such as the godmother, who is Parsi, matriarch, and a symbol of wisdom and strength. So um, you also find the historical um, realism a novel which incorporates many historical facts and events mm, that occurred during partition, such as Lahore resolution. Okay, so all these things. Are you all understanding and getting me what I'm trying to deliver? Both of you. Okay. So you find, yeah, so the Lahore Resolution, the Quit India movement, the Direct Action Day, the great, Calcutta killings, the train massacres, the refugee camps, and the, formation of Pakistan. All these, the novel, also depicts the political leaders and figures who influenced partition, such as Mahatma Gandhi, Muhammad Ali Jinnah, Jawaharlal Nehru, Lord Mountbatten, and Cyril Gadcliffe. So all these, these are the historical, realism that we can, talk about. Um, okay, now, okay, now we shall talk about. mm, why it is, we shall discuss why Ice Candy Man is a novel of a, partition novel, and what is a, partition novel. So you find, if you talk about Bapsi Sitwa's Ice Candy Man, this was, published in London in 1988, and in the, 1991 American edition, this title was, was changed to Cracking India, because the publishers felt, America's would misunderstood Ice Candy Man and confuse it with drugs. So you find the novel is set in a pre